This message is transmitted at the request of the United States Office of Civil Defense.
Hello, my name is Manali Zope. I am what is left of the United States government. If you are receiving this message, it means that Agent Wooten was successful in her mission to go back in time and deliver this message. It is currently June 19th, 4022. The Earth is dying as we know it. Efforts to stop ocean acidification have been too little, too late. All marine life ceases to exist. Last year, the last known traces of phytoplankton went extinct. It is getting harder and harder to breathe every day since. Phytoplankton were once 50% of our oxygen producers, but now we are left with just trees. It was not enough. We had to kill off anyone that wasn't part of our elite in order to preserve what is left of our oxygen supply. With the extinction of marine life due to ocean acidification, there has been a drastic decrease in jobs and a worldwide famine. All economies failed, and the developing countries which relied on fish ceased to exist. I am warning you now about this because you need to change the course of the future in order to preserve the marine life and Earth as we know it. It all began with the tiniest of creatures, the pteropod. Pteropods that are part of the marine habitat. They can be found in bays, coasts, islands, marine biomes, oceans, seas, and straits. The pteropods are found in the pelagic zone, which is the area in the water that is not near the shore or the bottom. The pteropods are heterotrophic animals that feed on phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are autotrophic. Some specific species that the Limacina helicina eat are listed on the screen now. They are also cannibals and eat themselves. Pteropods have specific morphological features. They have mucus nets that are formed on the feet of the pteropods so that the food can be caught. The nets are often eaten in order to obtain food. The feet of the pteropods are used as wings so that the organism can swim. They also have a trunk in order to kill and remove eatable substances from other organisms. Pteropods also have a thin yet sturdy shell for protection. Pteropods also have an internal repair system that also protects it from the rise in ocean acidification. This internal repair system creates an increase in aragonite so that it can protect itself from the increase of pH in the ocean. Pteropods are protandrous hermaphrodites, meaning they are males first and females later. They have spermatophories, which are used for sperm transfer, and the eggs are released in ribbons during the early spring, and then they hatch into ciliated veligers. Their average lifespan is 1 year in the Arctic and around 2 years in the subarctic. Pteropods live in the subarctic and Arctic areas, such as the Arctic Ocean. These areas include the North Atlantic Ocean. They're also found in the Denmark Strait and Davis Strait in Greenland. In the USA, pteropods are found in areas between Cape Hatteras and Newfound Island, from the Gulf of Alaska to Friday Harbor and Washington State. They are also found in Russia and Japan. Pteropods are known as the potato chips of the sea because they are an essential aspect of the marine food web. They obtain their energy from phytoplankton and zooplankton, and also from other pteropods as they are cannibals. Diatoms and dinoflagellates are just some of the examples of the phytoplankton that the pteropods eat. The primary consumer of the pteropods are small fish, such as tuna, lanternfish, and copepods. The secondary consumers of pteropods are squid, amphipods, or ocean sunfish. The tertiary consumers of the pteropods are lancetfish, tuna, marlin, and also smaller sharks. And the decomposer of the marine life is marine bacteria and marine fungi. Now, the pteropods were the creatures that started the whole chain reaction to the end of the Earth because they were victims of ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is when carbon dioxide is absorbed by seawater and different chemical reactions occur that reduce pH of the seawater, carbonate ion concentration, and saturation states of biologically important calcium carbonate minerals. Calcium carbonate is very important because it is found in the shells and skeletons of marine life. The ocean is supposed to be supersaturated with calcium carbonate minerals, so that there is an abundant amount of building blocks for calcifying organisms to build their skeletons and shells.
However, due to ocean acidification, the ocean is becoming undersaturated, and this is affecting the ability of different animals to create and keep their shells. Essentially, in ocean acidification, the carbon in the air is causing the pH levels to decrease, making it more acidic. This impacts the different enzymes within the bodies of animals. Since the Industrial Revolutions, the pH levels of the ocean have dropped around 0.1%.
The following was the current effects of ocean acidification back in 2016. Ocean acidification affects the habitat and diet of the pteropods. This acidification affects the nutrient cycling within the habitats. This cycle is impacted because it causes changes to the food web and impacts the diets of different animals. Due to ocean acidification, some essential animals are reducing, which results in less available food for the predators, and this impacts the nutrient cycle. In the case of the pteropods, they are directly impacted and affect the diet of other animals, but their diet is not impacted. Ocean acidification also impacts the nitrogen cycle of the marine habitat. Nitrogen is an important nutrient within the ocean, and it is used to make proteins and other compounds. Organisms such as ammonia oxidizers are important in the nitrogen cycle, and they are found less due to ocean acidification.
An effect on this food web from ocean acidification is that it can result in temporal and spatial shifts in interactions between species. For example, it shifts the timing of zooplankton development relative to food availability. This leads to changes in predator-prey, competitive, and other food web interactions. One major impact ocean acidification has on the marine food web system is that it makes a harder time for pteropods to survive. The shells of pteropods are essential for the animal's ability to maintain homeostasis because it is used for protection and shelter. Due to the ocean acidification, the shells of pteropods are becoming destroyed and the pteropods die and sink to the bottom of the ocean. This destroys the food web, as pteropods are known as the potato chip of the ocean because so many essential animals feed on pteropods, and they are the keystone species of certain marine food webs.
The possible long-term effect of ocean acidification on the habitat is that the pH levels will keep decreasing, which will further hinder the nitrogen process and kill off more pteropods, which are essential to the diets of many animals. Over time, the carbon dioxide made from the humans will permeate the sea, and ammonia oxidizing organisms will be at a significant disadvantage in competing for ammonia. Scientists estimate that up to 25% of the ocean's primary production could shift from nitrate to ammonium supported.
Ocean acidification can also have long-term effects on this food web. The switch from nitrate supported to ammonium supported will drastically impact the food web and the way that organisms are created. Since nitrogen is essential for the growth of many organisms, the lack of nitrogen would result in the possible extinction of vital organisms, and ones that require more ammonium would flourish. Also, another long-term effect of ocean acidification is that the shells of pteropods could dissolve at a faster rate due to the increased pH levels, and this could lead to the eventual extinction of pteropods. Over time, this would destroy the rest of the food web, as pteropods are an essential keystone species in which hundreds of species rely on for food.
The way to save Earth as we know it is to protect the tiny creatures called the pteropods. This can be done by reducing the carbon emissions that are created by modern energy sources. A solution to all the problems is geothermal energy. Geothermal energy is the energy harnessed from the heat of the Earth. This energy can be harnessed by large and complex power stations or also small pumping systems. The use of geothermal energy results in fewer fossil fuel burning, which will lead to healthier Earth and environment.
In 2012, the U.S. National Renewable Energy Laboratory found that the conventional geothermal sources in about 13 states have the potential capacity of 38,000 megawatts, which could produce 308 million megawatts per hour of electricity annually.
The heat for the geothermal energy comes from the layer of molten rock called magma. This heat is renewable in this layer as it is constantly produced from the decay of radioactive materials such as uranium or potassium.
The amount of heat within 10,000 meters, or about 33,000 feet, of Earth's surface contains 50,000 times more energy than all of the oil and natural gas resources in the world.
There are different modes of acquiring geothermal energy. One of these is direct geothermal energy, which are used in places where a hot spring or geothermal reservoirs are closer to the surface of the earth. The hot spring is piped directly to the homes or office buildings. After the water is used, it can be re-ejected into the ground and reheated and used again. Another process is geothermal heat pumps. Through a series of pipes called a loop system, the hot water is extracted from the ground and pumped into the building. An electric compressor and heat exchanger pull the heat from the pipes and send it through a duct system throughout the building. In the summer, this is reversed and the pipes draw heat away from the house and carry it to the ground or water outside where it is absorbed. There are three types of geothermal power plants. The first is the dry steam power plants, wherein the hot steam is piped directly from the geothermal reservoirs into generators in the power plant. The steam spins turbines, which generate the electricity. Another type of geothermal power plant are flash steam plants, wherein 300 and 700 degrees Fahrenheit water is brought up through a well. Some of the water turns into steam, which drives the turbines, and when the steam cools, it condenses back into water and is returned to the ground. Another type of geothermal power plants are binary cycle plants, wherein semi-hot water is passed through a heat exchanger. Here, its heat is transferred into a liquid that boils at a lower temperature than water. When that fluid is heated, it turns into steam, which spins the turbines. There are many benefits to geothermal energy. The main benefit is that it is environmentally friendly. Geothermal energy is recognized by the United States Environmental Protection Agency as the most environmentally safe, cost-effective heating and cooling system on the market. Installing a geothermal energy system is equivalent to planting 750 trees or taking 2 cars off the road because there is a drastically lower carbon footprint. Geothermal energy also results in lower utility bills, as the geoexchange units typically realize energy savings of 25 to 50% over conventional gas, oil, or heat pump systems. Geothermal energy also brings in a positive cash flow. Due to the buried loop system, installing a geothermal energy system is more expensive at first, but then easier to maintain later down the line. Geothermal energy will produce significantly cheaper utility bills and annual maintenance costs. The initial cost can be earned back after 3 to 5 years. Geothermal energy is also a stable source of energy.
Next, geothermal energy is location-specific. Geothermal reservoirs are hard to create unless in a specific location, and the transportation of the energy from a place of extraction to a place of use leads to the loss of energy. This is because the energy is transported by means of hot water and not by electricity. Secondly, there can be surface instability or earthquakes. Building geothermal power plants affects the stability of the land and makes it more prone to earthquakes. Just a couple years ago, in January 1997, the construction of a geothermal power plant in Switzerland triggered an earthquake with a magnitude of 3.4 on the Richter scale.
Geothermal energy is one of the top types of alternative energy source, and it will greatly aid in the earth by decreasing the amount of fossil fuel emissions created. One of the most important aspects of geothermal energy is that it is renewable and clean. As of right now, geothermal energy is not as popular due to the high costs of setting up the geothermal power plant and maintaining the plant. Over time, however, as geothermal energy becomes more widely known, this creation process of the power plants will reduce in cost. Also, geothermal energy is a long-term energy source, meaning that over time it will pay for itself and the money will be earned back. Geothermal energy is more effective compared to solar, wind, and water sources because it is not dependent on the weather and only moderately dependent on the location. Geothermal energy is also important because it results in lower utility bills. As of right now, geothermal energy is debated upon due to its sustainability issues and making the ground more prone to earthquakes. All of these issues can be easily fixed in the long run and will result in fewer greenhouse gases emissions, therefore saving the earth.